This is the hard truth. Hello, Patriots. This is the hard truth. Today's date is Sunday, the 28th of August. Okay. I did speak briefly about sources of information and sources of news. I want to elaborate slightly on what I consider false prophets. The problem is with the current situation where, and I'm going to say alleged here, because until we actually know, until it's all finished and the dust has settled, we can only hope that the current situations in the world and all the things we've seen happen from the COVID times and prices going up and wars in Russia and etc., etc., etc. There's two chains of thought. Clearly, a lot of things are going wrong in the world. Clearly, this is initiated by a group of people, which we call the deep state. Clearly, there's two scenarios. Either this is going to continue unabated and things get worse for humanity, or there are a group of people working for the good of humanity. I like to believe that's the case. I think there's been an awful lot of evidence that that's the case. Now, how much has been achieved? How much has actually been done? What is the current situation with the deep state? Are they dependent on who you listen to or talk to? The whole thing's finished and the deep state are vanquished. And this is just optics, trying to red pill the people. Or it's still in process. So, or it's not happening at all. That's the three choices we have. Now, under that circumstance, if there is a group of people or an alliance trying to rid the world of these evil socialists, the deep state, the Illuminati, whatever, as I say, whatever you want to call them, if that's the case, they're not going to broadcast to anybody but the people in the know what they're going to do, what their plans are. So nobody's going to know unless you're in that inner circle of people, however many they may be, even that's unknown. So you're not going to divulge your plans. What you're certainly not going to do is leak information to people on the internet who are going to tell everybody, because that will tell the bad guys exactly what the good guys are doing, which would be ludicrous. So if there is moves afoot, if there are truly, or there is truly a concerted effort by the good guys to get rid of the bad guys, to keep it simple, nobody's going to know about it, what's happening. Yes, there might be, and the QAnon movement has been said to be a way of leaking coded information to people that they can decipher to see the progress and the potential of what's going to happen, and etc., etc. Again, we don't know how truthful that is. And again, it's only a situation that afterwards it would come out and say, yes, that was designed to leak information to the people so they didn't get too worried, etc., etc. But again, we don't know. Nobody knows. It's a big, big puzzle, and what we're trying to do, what people who are trying to find out the truth are trying to do, is to put these pieces of the puzzle together. I don't make any allusions to, having privileged information or what I'm saying is true. It's up to you guys to go and check and to find out for yourself and see what makes sense, like I've been doing. Now, over the last few years, I've been listening and watching thousands and thousands of YouTube videos, reading articles on the internet. And of course, it's very difficult because if the bad guys are running the show, they're not going to let the good guys openly broadcast a contra method or a contra opinion. So it's difficult to find out the reality of certain situations. But nevertheless, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to establish what is real, what is true. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who have jumped on the bandwagon. They call themselves, inverted commas, truthers. Now, we have to look at some of these truthers. I spoke briefly about Kirsten W., who I think was a fantastic source of information. And she truly was, I believe, putting out information out there that she did have some access to high-level sources. She was very heavily connected. Her family was a big banking family in Singapore. There were supposedly ties in with the Dragon family in China. She was an interior designer. She'd been a model. She had plenty of money. She wasn't doing anything for gain. She wasn't selling T-shirts or hats on websites or anything like that. She was trying to get a true message out, or certainly a message out there that she believed was true. Now, when you've got somebody that has no ulterior motive, no visible ulterior motive, other than the fact they're trying to impart knowledge to you and what they believe is the truth, I'm personally more inclined to believe they're genuine. And she, let's say, groomed a lot of other people. Mel K, for example, Ann Vanderstein was certainly benefited by being on her show, and they used to do podcasts and everything. And certainly Mel K was heavily groomed by Kirsten W. And I like Mel K. I think she tries to get a good message out. I think she's a bit erratic, but I do think I do think she's genuine. How good her information is another matter. As Kirsten W. said, Mel K says she worked for Trump and everything, and kind of implies that she was in the Trump inner circle when she worked on the reception desk at Mar-a-Lago. So I don't think she'd have been privy to much high-level stuff in that position. Probably the most she ever saw of Trump was if he walked in and said good morning. So, again, Kirsten W. put that accurate information out, and it was kind of skirted over, I think, by Mel K to try and make people think she had a stronger connection than she did with Trump, intentionally or unintentionally. But nevertheless, Kirsten W. generally thought well of Mel K and just thought she was a bit erratic and kind of jumped a little bit too fast with what she said. But certainly her heart was in the right place, that's for sure. And Vanderstein the same. So I don't think anyone would go too far wrong listening to them. But bear in mind that, they were not heavily connected people. They were people connected to a heavily connected person, which was Kirsten W. Or affiliating with a heavily connected person. Now, Kirsten W. also participated in some podcasts and shows with other people, other supposed truthers. Charlie Ward being a very well-known one. Now, Charlie Ward was an ex-timeshare salesman. He was grew up in a cult, ex-timeshare salesman, lives in Marbella in Spain. And as Kirsten W. said, an awful lot of his information is wrong. She stopped liaising with him. She didn't believe in what he was saying. She didn't believe he was genuine. Didn't dislike him as a person, but just didn't think his information was any good. Another one is Simon Parkes, and a similar scenario, I believe. So a good guide was the people that Kirsten W, I think, actually recommended, and people like Michael Jaco and Scott. I can't think of his second name at the moment; it eludes me. But you know, 2 or 3 people that she believed were genuine, and trying to get decent information out there and trying to impart decent information without going for gain. And you have to remember with Charlie Ward, for example, and I don't know the guy, I've never spoke to the guy, but you know, he's got a website and he's selling this and selling that, and you've got to pay to become an inner member, and you know, and it's dubious. This is an ex-timeshare seller. The dodgiest people known to man. Some of these timeshare salesmen, you know, conning old ladies out their money and disappearing with the money and all sorts of things. And I'm not suggesting that Charlie Ward did that, but my point is that to go into that line of business, you've got to be prepared to, you know, certainly be a little bit ambiguous with the truth, let's say. So, and as I say, the guy was in a cult, schooled in a cult. His own son doesn't speak too highly of him. I think his own son said, "Why would anybody believe some bellend in Marbella?" Again, you know, I ask people to make their own mind up. There's an awful lot of backlash against Charlie Ward at the moment. I don't know. This is what I do know, is the facts. He might be very genuine. He might believe in what he's saying. Do I believe he's getting unique information from anybody? And he's certainly touting the fact that he's a quantum financial system and NESARA and GESARA specialist. I don't believe that for 1 minute. NESARA and GESARA has been touted for 50, 60 years. Hasn't happened yet. So, you know, anyone can jump on the bandwagon and suddenly start saying they're an expert in it and it's going to happen and this and this and it hasn't happened yet. That's the point. You know, it's like a lot of people out there keep saying, you know, there's going to be an emergency broadcast and they've been saying EBS. They've been saying this for almost 2 years. It's not happened. So, you know, we have to base things on the facts. I've listened to Charlie Ward at length now. He's not saying anything that you couldn't find out of the internet in about 10 minutes. There is no unique information there whatsoever. None. Simon Parkes exactly the same. They are both regurgitating stuff they hear from American truthers. This is what they're doing. Simon Parkes the same. And, you know, websites and collective consciousness and all this nonsense. Look, again, Simon Parkes might believe totally in what he does. Seems a decent enough chap. But again, you've got to look at his background. He was a counsellor, a politician, which again, we know politicians, they're not averse to lying either. Not suggesting Simon Parkes lies. But what Simon Parkes did do is he was on a lot of TV chat shows and things like this, and This Morning's and interviews and stuff, and believed he was the product of an alien interbreeding program, and aliens come to visit him, and his mother went with an alien or something like that. Who knows? I don't know. I didn't take much notice of it. So, you know, I'm sorry, but these guys' background certainly don't inspire me with confidence that they're going to be genuine truthers for no gain. Because that's complete antithesis of what they are with their websites earning money and generating money and their backgrounds. So, frankly, neither of these guys I listen to anymore. because that's my choice. As I say, they might be perfectly nice chaps. You know, what someone's been in the past, maybe they've, doesn't mean it's going to follow them all through their life. You know, nobody's been angels all the time, but my point is this: unfortunately, when you're researching someone, you have to look at the facts, you have to look at the truth, you have to look at the background, because if you're putting your faith and you're basing everything on what this person says, and which you shouldn't, under any circumstances, you must check for yourself, then it helps if you start off with a credible source. I do not believe these people are credible. Nicholas von Eyman, I think his name is, I don't think he's too bad. I think his heart's in the right place. Pardon me. But as I say, you know, do your own research, find out for yourself. I'll not make any comment on these people other than to repeat what Kirsten W. said. And it falls in line with what I've seen myself. I've not seen anything revolutionary come out of these guys' mouths. In fact, what I have seen has either been proved to be false or it hasn't happened yet. Okay? Now, the false stuff, you know, they don't get back on their podcasts and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's kind of gets swept under the carpet. Now, the thing is with these truthers, which I think is quite dangerous, actually, they're all talking to each other and they're all, you know, it's like you're part of a gang. You know, you got to become part of a gang, and you're in the gang or you're not in the gang. And of course, if you're not in the gang, you're targeted, or it's kind of, well, you know, there's 8 of us saying this and there's one person saying that, so the 8 must be right. Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, Kirsten W. was quite acerbic and upset quite a few people, but she told the truth. I believe she told the truth. And she basically stood alone. And now she's dead under strange circumstances, and I urge you all to research this yourself. So, and we know history has a habit of eliminating people that tell the truth. John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Patrick Lumbumba. You know, this is a common practice. So you have to ask yourself, could there be deep state plants? Could there be people pretending to give you good information and be on the side of good, but really they're not? And that's the thing you have to be careful about. Are you listening to phony information propagated by a deep state mechanism? Or are you listening to some naive person who believes what he's telling you or believes everything he hears and thinks, do you know what, I'll make a few bob out of this. I'll start up a website and I'll sell my T-shirts and, you know, and as I said before, certainly with Charlie Ward as an example, you know, he pontificates, he's you know, and we're coming out of the darkness into the light, and this always happens when you come out of the darkness into the light, and all this absolute, well, it's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. It's what you call fillers. It's filling the fact he hasn't really got anything to say. And that's the reality of the situation. You've got to base yourself, or when you finish watching one of these people, afterwards you've got to say, what have I learnt from this? Right, we're going to be coming out of the darkness into the light, and God's got a plan for us, and it's all going to get better, and it's all optics. Sit down and with some popcorn and watch the movie and all this absolute rubbish. And you've got no information. The greatest truther that you could listen to would be somebody that would come on and say, do you know what's going to happen in 2 weeks' time? And it did. There's your acid test. This has never happened. The only person this has happened with that I've seen has been Kirsten W. And she's gone. So draw your own conclusions. I'm not denigrating any of these people, because even if they're wrong, even if they're spouting rubbish, even if they decided to make a few bob for themselves, they might think, well, I can't earn any money any other way. I believe in what I'm doing, but I've got to survive. Who knows? Maybe they're genuine. Maybe they believe in what they're saying, or they believe in what they're told. Maybe they're naive. But find out for yourself. Check out the backgrounds and see if this is somebody you want to listen to. With myself, I've got no financial gain. The hard truth doesn't stand to make any financial benefit out of anything. We're not going to be selling T-shirts or baseball caps, or there's no inner sanctum that you have to pay to join. I'm just going to put up information as I find it or as I hear it, and just really to spread information that might already be known. I doubt very much I'll have unique information, because, as I say, to have unique information, you'd have to be in the alliance, a whistleblower in the alliance, or a whistleblower in the deep state. But it's a puzzle, and it's a case of using your intelligence to put the pieces of the puzzle together and try and figure out what actually is going on. And as I say, a good start is to reverse what you hear on the mainstream news. Just totally reverse it. If they tell you it's black, it's white. If they tell you it's good, it's bad. There's a great starting point straight away. The waking up process is about ourselves. There's no gurus. There's nobody that's going to shortcut it for us. There's nobody that is better suited to wake us up than ourselves. And that's what you've got to remember. So beware false prophets. Thank you.